everyone. I've been wanting to make this video for well over a year, maybe even possibly 2 years. And it's about your butts. All right, this is a huge problem I see not only in guys but in women, in human beings. Period. Everybody thinks that because they have a butt that they know how to use a butt. But the truth is that as you age, somewhere along the lines, you stop using your glutes for whatever reason. I'm not really sure what it is, but we all stop using our glutes, and you don't really know how to use them unless somebody along the way teaches you how to use them purposefully every time you do a movement. Even if that movement is sitting down to a chair, you have to be taught what you're supposed to feel in order to properly use your glutes. Now, how weak glutes typically present themselves as a problem in the gym is not by somebody saying, my glutes aren't turned on. The tall tale sign you're going to hear from people in the gym that will let you know they don't know how to use their glutes is, my low back hurts. My low back is hurting when I'm doing this exercise, when I'm doing this exercise. And it can be exercises that shouldn't have anything to do with the low back at all. But because they do not know how to either squeeze or contract or lower a weight with their glutes, their low back ends up taking all the work. So what I want to do is I want to go over some of the most common exercises that I hear people saying, oh, my low back hurts when I do this exercise. And it shouldn't have anything to do with your low back. It should have to do with everything with your glutes. The number one exercise for sure is the 45-degree back extension. This is the one that I have to correct 100% of the clients that I end up working with, because what they see or what they've been taught by somebody else is to specifically use it for the low back. Now, I want to go ahead and say that, yes, like the GHD, you can do a movement on this machine where it is targeting your low back. On the GHD, people would say that it's a hips muted versus a hips unmuted movement. However, it's my belief that an individual has to be trained up to the ability to use that exercise. One of my former coaches, Boris Shako, world famous powerlifting coach, says that there are no advanced exercises. There are only exercises that somebody is not ready for. Okay, so I believe, especially on the 45-degree back extension, that doing the hips muted version, which would target the low back, most people are not ready for it. You need to be able to use your glutes to create a solid structure before you can do the hips muted version, okay? So let's see some demonstration. Now, what we typically see in most commercial gyms is people will lock in and then they make the articulation happen all in the low back. So you see a bunch of this going on right here. No glute involvement, just a lot of low back contraction, right? RDLs. RDLs are another one I always have to end up correcting on people, and they say that their low back hurts. But in reality, if you're doing the exercise right, you shouldn't feel it in your low back. You should feel it in the glutes and the hamstrings. So what you typically see from people when they're doing RDLs is, again, articulation at the waist, trying to keep the eyes and chest forward, but they don't know how to use their glutes to contract, to bring themselves up. So what they do is they revert to what they know how to feel using the low back. Everything else is correct except they're articulating at the waist. Lunges are another common one. You give somebody 6 or 8 lunges and they might be good, but then as soon as you have them doing a higher number of reps of lunges, what ends up happening is the proper motor pattern gets burnt out after the first few reps, and then it turns in, it's supposed to look like this, and then what ends up happening is they land, they come forward, right? A lot of bending at the waist because they don't know how to use their glutes to absorb the force, and they don't know how to use their glutes to come out of the lunge either. Step-ups. Step-ups are another common one. Now, with step-ups, I don't commonly hear people complaining of low back pain due to step-ups, but it has happened on several occasions. However, the one thing I do always end up having to correct on step-ups is people want to take a shortcut and only put half their foot and leave their heel hanging on. When people do this repeatedly over and over, that's typically when I start hearing the person having problems with doing step-ups. And the reason why is because when you don't land your heel on the box, you're not going to be using your glutes, okay? I don't want to get too scientific in this video here, but essentially the muscles you use in your leg are dictated by what your brain feels going on in the bottom of your foot. So again, the thing I have to correct most with people is put the whole foot on the box. Now, I don't want to get into how to do all of these other exercises correctly. That's not what this video is about. But if you are experiencing low back pain, or if you know people who do have low back pain when doing these exercises, you need to tell them to look at the exercises I'm going to give you later on in the video that teach you how to get more in touch with your glutes, okay? Now, there are even some upper body exercises that people commonly complain about low back pain when doing them. And this, for sure, 100% of the times is because they don't know how to use their glutes. The first one is push press. So you'll see people doing push press, and the first thing to do as soon as they start trying to apply force upwards is they bend at the low back because they don't know how to squeeze and contract those glutes to keep themselves up. All right. You'll also see another common thing: immediate rocking on the toes. So as soon as somebody starts trying to press, they bend and they rock up on the toes. If you see those two things happening, for sure the client does not know how to use their glutes. You need to scale them back and get them more in touch with their butt. The other one, believe it or not, are standing barbell curls. So again, same thing you'll see as soon as somebody starts trying to do a barbell curl, they do the same two things. They'll bend at the low back and they'll rock up on the toes. And after several reps, they start complaining of low back pain because they don't know how to use their glutes to create a solid structure overall. And what ends up happening is articulation here at the waist and the low back repeatedly with a load in your hands ends up causing low back pain. So those are probably the exercises that I most commonly see people doing, and they cause them low back pain, and it should have nothing to do with the low back. So how do we correct that? How do we start teaching people to feel their glutes more? Well, I'm a big believer in scaling back and isolating an area before you then revisit the movements and try to integrate that one muscle, that one feeling into a larger exercise. Now, I do want to take a side note here that in most of these exercises, if not all of them, if you do not know how to properly brace your core, your abs, whatever you want to call them, if you don't know how to properly brace, this is only going to be fixing half of the problem, okay? But there are a lot of amazing resources out there from people who know how to teach and articulate on the bracing mechanics better than I do. In fact, one of them is Chris Duffin at Kabuki Strength. So if you Google Kabuki Strength or Chris Duffin, the guy has put out a ton of amazing information on bracing. So I do want to, again, make sure that you understand using your glutes. That's a great first step. The other half of the battle is learning how to brace. You need the two working together to create a solid structure in order to move loads safely and more powerfully. Now, getting that pushed aside, 3 exercises. I just want to focus on 3. There are a lot more, but the 3 that I end up using a lot with clients. The first one are going to be, I don't know what else to call them, but a band-resisted Hatfield squat. So what I do is I end up taking a band, and usually I put it around a power rack. We'll just anchor it here. We'll put it around my waist, and we'll get some tension on the band. And what I instruct the client to do, the person to do, is first thing I want them to do is I want them to lift their toes up, okay? The reason why I do that is because it already gets them focusing on balancing on their heels. And again, keeping it very general and simple, loading the heels will automatically preload the posterior chain. So toes are up, you feel more weight shifting to your heels, and then what I have them do is I say, let the band pull you back, but keep your chest in place. Let the band pull you back and keep your chest in place. Then what I want you to do is push your heels into the floor and push against the band. Heels into the floor, pushing against the band. Band pulls me back, push into the band. Band pulls me back, keep the chest in place, push my heels to the floor, push against the band. So you can do this in a power rack. You can set this up. You can hold something to allow for an even greater range of motion. And then it also lets the client focus more on what the heels are doing instead of having to keep their balance. But this right here works just fine. With enough tension with a strong band, you could turn this into an exercise, 15 to 20 reps. And as long as you stay on those heels, focus on purposefully squeezing the glutes. When you come up here, squeeze, back down, heels down, squeeze. 15 to 20 reps, you're going to start feeling that in your glutes. The other exercise that I like to do are glute extensions. Now, you can do this at home with just a band. You don't necessarily need anything else. However, I am a big fan of the Spud Inc. glute or Spud Inc. hamstringer attachment. This makes the movement a lot easier to teach. And again, when you're regressing somebody, you want to be able to isolate their focus and their attention as much as possible to block out any other distractions. And then from there you can build back up. So I'll show you how to do it with just the band. So you would anchor it to something very, very low. And again, around the Achilles right here. Now what you're going to do is start with your legs in line. Squeeze the glutes. Add that bracing component in. Shift your weight over to the leg that does not have the band on it. And then what you're going to do is let it pull you forward and now squeeze the glute to come back. You can barely tap the floor just to keep your leg in place for a second if you want. Forward, squeeze the glute to come back. Forward, squeeze the glute. Now, if you're not bracing, what's going to end up happening is you're going to start doing this more right here, right? So like I said, that bracing is the other half of the equation you need to work on. Let the band pull you forward. Squeeze the glute. Push that heel back. Lead with the heel. That's a cue I use a lot with people. Lead with the heel. Don't think about trying to push the toes back. Push the heel back. Keep that foot gliding over the top of the floor right here. Don't turn it into a horse kick. That band's going to slide up the leg. Push the heel back and hold. So again, anywhere between 10 to 15 reps a leg, you're going to start feeling that in the glutes, okay? Good one to help you connect you guys with your glutes more. And then the other one, this one was really, really common. I just added it in here because there seems to be this one thing I have to correct when people do them all the time. And this comes straight from the guy who made these popular in the first place, Brett Contreras, I believe his nickname is the glute doctor or the glute expert. But the glute guy, maybe. So the one thing that I always end up having to correct that, again, he teaches is turning everything between your hip and your head into one solid unit. So what I typically see people do is they'll set up, and then what they start doing is this weird little hip thrust right here. Again, all the articulation is happening at the waist and the low back. Very little recruitment here in the glutes. So the cue that he gets you to do is, again, turn everything solid between here and here. If the head moves, the hip moves. If the hip moves, the head moves. So what it should look like, and again, kicking those toes up, preloading the heels, another good thing you can do to just sort of load the posterior chain in the exercise. So again, toes are up, heels are loaded. These 2 points move at the same time. Again, squeeze the glutes at the top to really feel it out. Now, what you should do is focus on, at the top, focus on pushing the heels through the ground. Don't focus on trying to raise the hips to the ceiling. Don't try to artificially touch the ceiling with your hips, because then what you end up doing is you lose this solid structure. You start hyperextending in the low back. So from here, you press the heels down. If you try to raise the hips, what you end up doing is this right here, right? Reaching, hyperextending, reaching too far back, more than you need to. So again, those are the 3 movements, and you can even do those at home. Spend some more time with your glutes. Learn how to use them so that when gyms do open back up, you can get back to all these other exercises, these big, strong exercises. Hopefully feel no low back pain. Learning to use your glutes now is actually something you want to set you up for a better rest of your life, period. I made a video a while back called Sit Like a Powerlifter for the Rest of Your Life. And the whole point of the video was, if you sit like a powerlifter for the rest of your life, you're going to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that the older people experience as they grow older, because nobody teaches them how to use their glutes. And as you get older, the glutes start atrophying. They go away more and more. And then every time they even just try to sit down or get up from a chair, they have to end up using more and more of their low back. They deal with more and more low back pain as they get older. And it's just a vicious cycle. So if you spend some time now in your life to start learning how to use your glutes, doing everything, including sitting down and getting up from a chair, you're going to be better off for the rest of your life. Even if you're not a gym rat, you're not trying to be some amazing athlete. Let's see if I can demonstrate it. Let me step away for a second and get a chair. So again, for those of you who have never seen the video, sitting like a powerlifter, it's just a generalization. You want to take a wide stance, keep the chest facing forward the entire time, and find the chair with your butt. So, and then when you're sitting in the chair, you can relax however you want. Again, before you get up, take that wide stance, keep the chest facing up, don't let it start pointing to the floor. Knees are open, and drive up. Okay? So you might look like a weirdo to everybody else, but over time it's going to become natural. And if you experience low back pain just from getting up from a chair, sitting down to a chair, if you adopt this method right here over time, you get very efficient at it, you start learning how to feel your glutes more, you should experience less low back pain. And it's just going to set you up for a more pain-free life as you get older. So I hope something in this video was helpful to you, if not all of it. And I hope you start getting more in touch with your glutes. Thanks for watching.